The Nigeria Development and Finance Forum, a platform designed to bridge the gap between international investors, policymakers, and Nigerians living abroad, is shifting its focus towards addressing domestic policy issues and attracting international interest towards Nigeria. Looking at the road to economic and social welfare transformation, the NDFF 2024 is aiming to support a comprehensive reform agenda for the Nigerian economy, and key areas are like fiscal policy, achieving monetary stability, and improving social welfare. And these are the industry-specific concerns for the NDFF. And to help us understand this better, I have JIDE AKINTUNDE, Director, Nigeria Development and Finance Forum, right here in our studios. Thank you so much for coming to us to talk about this.
Thank you very much for having me on your program.
Beautiful. Now, the Nigeria Development and Finance Forum was created to inform both local and foreign investors, including policymakers, about policies, opportunities, and investment climate in Nigeria. So how would you describe Nigeria's business ecosystem and the different policies of government so designed to guide its activities?
Okay, thank you very much. What we can say about the Nigerian business landscape is that it is transitional. We have recently transitioned from the last administration to the current one, and we definitely have seen that even if it is in terms of style, there is a difference that we have seen. But on a larger note, I think that the Nigerian economy, like most world economies, is going through a transition whereby the emphasis is shifting from maybe simply economic growth, but to sustainable development. This means that we're talking about green development, low carbon growth, and then there's a lot of emphasis about the stakeholder economy, whereby societies and broader categories of people, apart from the policy people and then of course people who own businesses, are the key players and the key concerns that an economy has. So there is a transition that is social in nature, that tries to bring in multiple stakeholders into the economic space and see what impact their policies are having on them. Nigeria is part of these conversations, and we are hoping that we can, at our conference coming up next month in Abuja, shed light on the nature of the transitions in the Nigerian economy, because really the transition itself is multidimensional. It is going on in the energy sector, it is going on in the social sector, and I really do think that when we look at the financial markets, we have also seen certain changes there. So that's the nature of the economy of Nigeria at this time. I think that people are hoping that they will have more clarity about what to expect. There's a flux, and people really want to be appropriately guided on what to expect.
Beautiful. So let's give the policies of government a bit of clarity, even as we continue to look at the transitioning and what to expect. Now, we know that there are some domestic policies that have been promulgated by the Nigerian government, both past and present. I'd like you to highlight maybe one or two of them that have been stifling economic growth in the country and discouraging investors from coming to the country. And these policies, of course, that need to be addressed.
Yes, thank you very much. I would say that if we were to itemize policies that stakeholders believe are stifling their businesses and stifling economic growth more broadly, I mean, the list is going to be quite long. But what I would like to say is that currently, I think that there is the absence of an overarching reform agenda that encapsulates the various segments of the economy for comprehensive reform. I think that that is one of the main issues that we can now see with the economy. Then, of course, we can talk about the lack of coherence, between policy statements and policy actions. So that divergence is causing quite a lot of issues. In fact, just simply understanding what exactly to believe of the economic landscape. So I do think that there is a need for a comprehensive policy agenda since, for instance, the current administration has now settled in the office. We hope to see, I mean, something like we saw in the early 2000s, like the needs, the National Economic Empowerment and Development Strategy. That was a policy that cuts across the economic sectors and provided a very comprehensive reform for the Nigerian economy. So we're hoping that we will see that at some point. I also think that we have seen some movements in the financial segments of markets with regard to how fiscal policy and monetary policy, can be given a new direction. But a key question in that regard is whether some of the measures that we have seen so far can be sustainable or not.
Yeah, talking about sustaining policies, there are other issues as regards this, which has to do with implementation of these policies, because over time, even as we've seen some harsh economic policies, the Nigerian government has also been able to come up with some fantastic economic policies, a white paper that, of course, if well implemented, would transform the economic landscape of the country. But then when it comes to implementation, it's been poor. And when it comes to sustaining those policies, it has also been abysmal. So why is it that that is the bane of Nigeria's economic policies when they're being rolled out when it comes to sustainability and implementation? Why is that a big challenge?
Yeah, I think it's a challenge. And I also think that we have to have a different idea about policy making. Policy making should entail both what the policies themselves are, and then it should also provide a roadmap for implementing the policies. I think that these essential components are important because if you disaggregate the policies from how they can be successfully implemented, we will have the kind of situations that we have here now. So that is why, for instance, at this conference, we are not presuming that we don't have the necessary policies. So we are now concerned about the roadmap of implementation, and this is very, very key. Like you said, it's been the bane of policy making in Nigeria, and of course, the bane of the economy itself. We must be able to map out appropriate strategies that will translate policy goals into real achievements. And I do think that that itself requires a lot of attention. And we are convening our conference to shine light on the need for these very specific aspects, of policy to complement what is simply stated as what government wants to do.
All right, fantastic. So we'll look at what this conference tends to gain in terms of robust discussions, because we see that the International Monetary Fund has come out to say that the Nigerian economy will grow to about 3.3% in 2024 from 3.0%. But then some businesses, institutions, and citizens are not too optimistic about the economic outlook for Nigeria in 2024. So for the deliberations that we will be having in this conference and the people that will be coming to speak, what should be the focal point in terms of policies and instruments and framework that should come to light if Nigeria is to scale up its economic trajectory and, of course, its economic potential?
Yeah, that's a great question. And my personal perspective about this is that we have seen in recent years how economic policies in the country has focused a lot on building things, building infrastructure, building roads, building rails, But I really do think that the right emphasis should actually be on building people, because I believe that the biggest potential of the Nigerian economy, it's not even in the population. It is the capacity that the population can deliver, and that is a function of know-how. So I think that policies should begin to shift to generally speaking, building Nigerians and building our capacity as a people. And once we are able to start doing that again, we will begin to see a different set of outcomes. Now, until the 2000s, for instance, there was a lot of emphasis on people when you look at the key economic agenda at that time. So, for instance, in the 1970s, we had the Operation Feed the Nation, so that talks about the welfare of the people, that people don't go hungry and that the country is food secure. Subsequent to that, we also had the Green Revolution, but I think that after the year 2000, we began to see certain shifts. For instance, when Nigeria, was pursuing an agenda of being the top, one of the top 20 economies in the world, that doesn't say anything about the plight of the people. And then when we shifted focus to infrastructure investment, it doesn't say anything about the people. Now we are talking about building a 1 trillion naira economy. It doesn't say anything about the people. So what we want to do at NDFF is to bring back the people as a focus of economic making, policy making in the country.
All right, JIDE AKINTUNDE, Director, Nigeria Development and Finance Forum. Thank you so much for your time on the show. We hope that when all these areas are looked into, most especially revitalizing the Nigerian markets and businesses, the green economy, the blue economy, and investments are channeled into all these lines, it can help foster economic growth for Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.